Kim, welcome to the podcast. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, you have been on the podcast before. We talked about podcasting. I don't even know how long ago. It was probably more than a year ago. I don't even
Yes, I think so.
remember. It
I
was
think
such a great
so.
episode. Yeah.
1 or 2
Yeah.
years ago, maybe.
Yeah. So we talked about marketing. We talked about how podcasting has been a big channel for you. So we'll obviously get to that for anybody who hasn't listened to this episode or who didn't listen to that episode and isn't familiar with your work. But first, maybe you can just give us a little Coles notes of your background as a dietitian and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been a dietitian for 18 years, and my first position was clinical, and I actually covered the bariatric floor where patients had surgeries. And so I was the inpatient dietitian that helped them when they were getting discharged with the education. And so that kind of started my, understanding my a little bit of my background in bariatrics, which is now my been my business this whole time. Basically, my whole practice is around bariatrics. But throughout that time, I also had an interest in sports nutrition because I was a collegiate athlete myself. And being an athlete, I wanted to learn more about, how to eat properly to fuel, and be better as a soccer player. And so as I worked in my clinical position, I also had volunteered initially at a Division I university here where I live to work with the athletes. And eventually it became a consultant position. And I worked there for 7 years working with all the athletes here at Fresno State. So that was really exciting and fun. And I did that kind of in my additional time after I would leave the hospital or even in before. And so what was great about it is I was getting a lot of clinical, training because I was working on the inpatient side. And then I also was able to do the sports nutrition side. And as my career kind of moved forward, I moved more into the outpatient side of bariatrics. And I actually was in a position for the last 10 years working in an outpatient bariatric surgical center. And the biggest thing that I found was people had questions about, hey, now that I've had surgery and I've lost all this weight, I would like to start lifting and gaining muscle, or I would like to train for a marathon. And of course, when you've had bariatric surgery, you've had your stomach, reduced in size. Obviously the surgery is limiting your overall intake. And that is very hard for then someone that's wanting to move more, has specific training and fitness goals because you need more nutrition for that. So two was it about oh gosh 3 years ago now in 2022 I decided to leave my clinical position and open up my private practice, which is called Active Bariatric Nutrition, where I work with clients who have training and fitness goals after bariatric surgery and want to learn how to fuel for those particular goals. So it's been great, and you helped me get that all launched back in 2022, and it's been great these last 3 years, kind of seeing the business change over time, and I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with choosing such a specific niche and whether that was challenging for you? Because it is so specific. It's bariatric and then it's sports layered on top of bariatric. So tell me
Yes.
a bit about that.
Yeah, well, personally for me, it was part of my passion areas, right? I had worked with bariatric patients throughout my career when I worked inpatient and outpatient, and so I had obviously a strong background in that, and then paired with the sports nutrition part, which again was again a personal interest of mine. And what I found though was that there really was nobody out there to answer the questions that these folks had, and there really isn't a ton of research, unfortunately, in this area, particularly on how to fuel someone that's had bariatric surgery or that's in a very low caloric environment. And so I found that it was helpful for me because honestly, it helped me to use the two areas of nutrition that I'm most comfortable with and have the most experience with. So combining those two areas and really just targeting in on those people helped me because I had all the resources made, right? I didn't have
Mhm.
to, try to answer 800 different topics and questions every single day, which I used to do when I was on the inpatient side. And for me, really dialing in, focusing on one particular area, as much as that might sound scary, like, oh my gosh, now I might have less people, it actually drove more folks to me because I was the only person that did that particular area. So honestly, looking back, I'm really glad that I focused on just one area. It's been much easier for me.
hmm And I think too, and this has been I feel like a less, I was just at a business workshop last week and they were talking about how you can only really be excellent at one thing. And it really gives you permission to be excellent at that specific thing and really own your space as like the go-to expert for that one thing. Go deeper on that one thing versus trying to compete with everyone else that is serving all of these different population groups.
Right. No, I can't agree
Yeah.
with you more. And truthfully, as a dietitian, I found that over the years of, it was, yes, I learned a lot. I'm glad I had the experiences of treating patients with all wide variety of diagnoses. But once I focused in, it really just allowed me then to learn more specifically about these particular patients and their, struggles and obstacles. And it just allowed me to become better at it. So I agree with you so much on what you had to say there.
Yeah. Okay, so you started with launching your practice as a one-on-one nutrition coaching practice. So tell me a bit
Yes.
about that. Well, for those who obviously I know a little bit about this, but for those that are listening that aren't familiar with the backstory, just tell us a little bit about how you structured the offer and what that looked like.
Yeah. So when I first started, I kind of wanted to just, roll into what I had been doing, right? Which was all one-on-one work. And I felt comfortable doing that. And I felt also because of the fact that when I worked in the clinic, it was always such a just in and out, in and out. And I, see people for 15 minutes. And the whole part of this in developing my business was so that I could work more closely and more over a long term with someone and to see them through their goals, rather than just here's your handout, see ya, good luck with your life. So it
Hmm.
really was about being able to work more one-on-one with folks to help them reach their goals and see them through that. So when we and I started working together, we talked about some different options as to package options. I didn't want to do one-off sessions where I just sold a session here or there. And that was something that you really taught me too, which was, you want to work with folks, you want them to really value your offer and the services. And so you want to work with them over a longer period of time. And I can't agree with you more. That was the best thing that I did was offering two packages. I had a 10 session package, which we basically called a 5-month package. And then I had a 3-month package, which was 6 total sessions. And so basically how we kind of structured it was, for someone that needed more long term or they had maybe a larger goal, maybe someone that was training for a marathon and we needed to work together over a longer period of time versus, where we were going to go through several cycles of their nutrition and we might have to change things. The longer and the bigger package allowed us to do that versus the smaller package was maybe someone had a smaller goal or they just wanted to, either relearn something or learn something that wasn't going to be something that was going to take a long time to implement. We had that smaller package as an option. And so I just started with those two things. And honestly, that was so much better for me because, again, I was learning the tech and how to run a business and so many other things, the marketing and things that, you just aren't taught normally as a dietitian when you've worked on that clinical side. And those two options for me, it was just much easier I found for people because they just had one or two. That was it. Which one would you
Yeah.
like? And I did a discovery call to learn more about them, and then we talked through those options, and they would pick, and it was great. I've really enjoyed that. In fact, I was getting so busy that I was. And we'll talk about it. I decided to move into more of a group program because it was just a lot of people coming in for those options.
Hmm. And what I think is so cool about that too is when you're so clear on who your ideal client is, it becomes so much easier to create packages and offers that suit that exact person instead of trying to come up with like the thing that works for everyone. Because then when somebody
Right.
gets on a call with you and they see, oh, this 5-month program was designed exactly for me training for my marathon, it's like, whoa, this is so awesome. And that just becomes a
Yes.
really amazing selling feature.
Yeah. And I should
Yeah.
highlight it was all of I do all virtual. So it's all
Yeah.
one-on-one virtual. Obviously this was after COVID, so that really allowed me to have be able to target a lot of folks and do it all virtually in the comfort of their home. And so it just really opened the doors for me in terms of being able to get a lot of clients in.
So let's talk a little bit about marketing
Yeah.
and what that has looked like for you. Tell me
Okay.
about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so literally, when we first started working together, I had very minimal training or understanding of what to do for marketing. And to top that off with the fact that I wasn't very comfortable doing a lot of reels and videos and things like that. I felt like it wasn't very authentic for me. I don't mind talking. I really enjoy teaching and being in front of folks, but the reels and the things that like on Instagram, if you were using that as kind of your main, marketing thing, which I was, it wasn't great for me. And so something that I found really worked well for my skills and things that I'm feel more comfortable at was a podcast. And that has been my absolute most biggest driver of clientele it has been my podcast. And I started that. So I opened my business in March of 2022, and October of 2022 was when I first started my podcast. And it has been great. And it has really helped me to get out in front of way more people than I probably ever would have just been focusing on Instagram, for example.
Yeah. And you still have an Instagram presence and
I
it's
do.
grown quite
Yes.
organically. But how do you manage that in terms of
Yeah.
content? Is it mostly just reposting podcast episodes on the gram?
Yeah. So what I
Yeah.
do is I use a Riverside, which allows me to take clips, video and audio clips of my podcast, and I post those clips of guests that I have, or maybe part something that I want to share with folks of a information that I thought was helpful on my Instagram, on my YouTube, on TikTok, and it's been great because you're killing two birds with one stone. You don't have to then go out and recreate something different. However, I do stories from time to time, hey, let's have an open conversation today, ask me something, and or I'll post some stories about, an important information that I want to share. So I really don't have some very dialed in strategy on Instagram. It's more utilizing their podcast to help me with that. And then here and there I will post different things.
hmm Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the group program. So what was it that prompted you to want to start the group program?
Yeah. So honestly, when we first started, my ultimate goal had always been to be able to expand and grow and, you know, scale, I guess you would
hmm
say. And I do enjoy teaching. I like, working in that group setting. So also get that combined with the fact that I'm a mom of three kids, and the one-on-ones were starting to really fill up my schedule to the point where I was getting a little bit overwhelmed, feeling a little bit
hmm
overwhelmed. And it was to the point where we're crossing over into where I was feeling like the reason that I left my clinical position was to open this so I could have more flexibility with my schedule and my kids. And I was getting right back to where I was, which was full schedules, almost 5 days a week of clients. And I'm blessed for that, and I'm excited for that. That was wonderful. But I wanted to move more into the group because what I found, and something that I learned from you, was when you have folks that are going through because it's such a specific niche, if they have a similar goal, such as endurance training or I want to gain muscle, you're basically teaching similar nutritional concepts, right? And so we
hmm
could package that into a program where, I did lessons. So basically, I had a 6 week program, modules where I had maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 lessons in a week. And those lasted about 7 to 10 minutes each. And I basically walk them through a pyramid of concepts in order to how to gain muscle after you've had bariatric surgery. And so for me, it's been really a nice transition in that I'm targeting more people at one time, and we're still able to cover really important nutritional concepts. And of course, because we have the weekly live Q&As, they can ask me individual questions. So if they have more individualized specific questions, I can do that for them as well. But it's really been a wonderful transition. I'm super excited about it, and I want to keep focusing on this for sure.
Yeah. So we'll get to the whole like launch process and results and all of that stuff, but tell me a little bit about your experience with the creation process of Bariatric Strong. Like what were some of the biggest challenges that came up for you?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I'm not great at creating things. And so as much as like, as dietitians, the information's up here, but it's like, okay, how do we want to share that? How do we want to, do we want to create handouts? Do we want to do videos? What's that mode that you feel comfortable with in terms of, spreading that information? And I'm not great at creating, handouts and things like that. So that was a huge obstacle for me that really put it off for me for a while because I kept being like, it felt very overwhelming. I wanted to
hmm
create this program, but how am I going to, summarize it in these handouts when I don't feel comfortable doing that? So I actually did outsource. I have a virtual assistant that helps me with that, and that is her jam. And I'm like,
hmm
okay, here's the information. I would make the PowerPoints basically, and she made them look a lot nicer. I also, would give her information for handouts that I wanted her to create, and she would create those for me, and then I would basically package those into the program, for the final, product, so to speak. So that was the biggest obstacle I would say, and just the tech and in not really being familiar. I use Kajabi and really having to learn how to utilize the marketing piece, the emails, the structure of that, and just learning all that and going through it. And I know you've said this lots of time, you have to actually just do it because as much as you kind of think about it, you overthink, "Oh, I don't know how to do this." You're not going to know it until you try it. Right. And so
Hmm.
things that I don't think I ever would have thought I could do, I now am able to do because I just had to get in there and try it. And yeah, a lot of times I had to ask for help, like, "Oh my gosh, what am I doing?" But once I got in there and really started, doing the things, it got a lot easier.
Hmm. And so the program is structured where, and you can tell me if I'm missing, fill in the blanks for me, but so people join, so it's called Bariatric Strong. It is really designed to pull people through this transformation of building strength, right?
Right.
Post-bariatric surgery. So it's a 6 week long program. They join, they immediately get access to week one content, which is a video module and some like additional handouts or whatever support. And there's a
Yes.
community forum too, which is really
Yes.
cool. So they immediately get access. They get access to week one, the community forum. It's really exciting. And then you also do your weekly live Q&A sessions as well. Yeah.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Anything that I missed?
No, nope, that was it. And then they get access to the community this first time around for
Yeah.
6 months, just so that
Yeah.
we could, for me, it's about like, I want to not only grow this community, but just learning from the folks that join the program. Their feedback is very helpful for me in
Hmm.
making each program better.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit about the experience of running a group program for the first time. Like, what have been some of the unexpected things that have come out of it?
Yeah. Well, something that you and I have talked about a lot of times is for someone that's been used to one-on-one, right? So I am talking to these people, I get to know them very well. And, we're working through their very specific individual, obstacles and needs and things like that. In a group program, because I have the community, that's been great. We had an introduction where I asked everyone to introduce themselves. So you do get to learn a little bit about folks. But something that has been a struggle for me is I'm so used to that one-on-one, lots of contact, points. A community is people can choose to participate as little or as much as they want. So something that I've had to really wrap my brain around is understanding that folks are all gaining something from the program. How they choose to move through the program is their choice. And how much they want to interact with me or not is also their choice. And so for me, it's been, it makes me sometimes I'm a little nervous. Like, I'm like, "Oh, I haven't heard from, so many people. I hope everything's going okay." And something that you and I have gone back and forth on is understanding that, as you've told me, they're using the program the way that they are going to use it. And some people are not going to interact. And you're going to have super users, which I do. I have the folks that are in there, every day and posting. I have some that are more moderate. And then I have some that I don't think have posted one single time. And so
Hmm.
for me, it's been a really big learning curve on understanding that it's still okay.
Hmm.
The wide range of usages of a program like this, it's just, I didn't know what to expect. And I was a little surprised by there's really super users and then there's people that don't communicate at all. And,
Yeah.
and so just understanding that that's okay. That's a big,
Hmm.
big learning curve.
And it's funny because you and I even talked about even you and I, right? When we join
Yes.
programs, I mean, I'm way more of a wallflower
Me
in a
too.
program.
Yes.
I
I'm the
love to
same.
just observe. I like to buy courses for when I need them, and I
Yeah.
have them for reference in the future, but I'm not the person who's like actively posting all the time. I'm just not
Yes.
that person. But I still
Yes.
love the program.
Yes. And that's what was so great you pointed out
Yeah.
because you're like, "Are you like that?" And I'm like, "I'm
Yeah.
exactly like you."
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, "But then why are you worried that folks aren't,
Yeah.
participating?"
Yeah.
It's like that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's been the
Totally.
biggest thing, I think. And just again the tech.
Yeah.
Learning, how to record a meetup, and just all those little things that again, first time through, I was like, the first week was going to be my first trial of this. I hope it works
Yeah.
out. And it
Yeah.
did,
Yeah.
but it's just been a lot of just learning. And
Yeah.
it's been fun for me, honestly.
Yeah. That's awesome. And so let's talk a little bit about the launch process.
Okay.
So tell me about the launch process or tell the audience
Yeah.
about the launch
Yeah.
process and what we did there.
So, so basically I did build the whole program out because I do drip out the content each week. So I had already, created and recorded all of the modules and the lessons before I even, was basically starting the program. So essentially, about a month or so ahead of time, I started posting messages, hey, something big is coming. And then I did say, hey, I'm creating this, 6-week program, Bariatric Strong. And all throughout the last, I would say 6 months before that, I was going into stories and asking questions of my audience to learn more about their pain points. What were the things that they really struggle with in terms of, hey, I want to gain muscle and strength after bariatric surgery. What are those nutritional topics that I'm not understanding or I need help with? And so I really posted that quite a bit in the 6 months prior, I would say. And so again, about a month ahead of time, I started announcing that, hey, we're doing this. I also started an email list, which,
Woohoo!
hey,
Yeah.
is kind of a key thing that maybe we need to have a whole separate conversation on. But I started kind of warming up the audience that I had. I had been collecting emails on my website, but I really hadn't been active in sending out messages, to be quite frank. And so something that you were like, hey, you need to, maybe start introducing yourself again and make it more so it's not just, oh, I'm launching this program and this is the first
Hmm.
email you've ever received. So because I have that podcast, I initially started in that, month or two before I was going to open up for registration, started sending out emails like, hey, this is my podcast, so that they understand that I am trying to help and this is something that you can learn about. And so I started warming them up that way. And then basically in the weeks before, yeah, I just started increasing the frequency of the emails and the postings on, social media. And I basically opened up my registration. I had a wait list also that we were collecting names. So that was a separate email list that I had to kind of drive interest and anticipation. We
Hmm.
had that wait list going. And so I think that really was helpful because I think what did we have, like 76, 77 people on the
Hmm.
wait list.
Yeah.
And that was exciting for me because it showed me that, yeah, this was going to be something that people were interested in. So
Yeah, well, and I think that's really the benefit in having a wait list is just for
yes,
you as the person that's running the program to just be able to gauge interest and really get
yes,
that reassurance that, yeah, this is resonating with people, right?
totally.
Like it wasn't that you were only allowing people who were on the wait list into the program. It wasn't even like that. It was just that they would receive the information first and they had the first chance to register. But really, it was just for you to be able to say,
Yes.
okay, yeah, this is resonating with people. And it can
Yeah.
kind of almost help you too. I mean, as you continue to launch, right, you can continue to see or you can start to see trends in what percentage of your wait list actually converts, right? Because it's not
Right.
everyone, of course.
No.
It's a small percentage of those people even who say, yeah, I want to join the wait list and actually
Right.
will pull out their credit card and purchase. But then you can
Right.
start to see trends, right? If it's X percent of your wait list, then next time you know that if you build your wait list to this number of people, you can kind of start predicting your launch results, which is that's when it gets really fun.
Yeah, and that's been really
Yeah.
something fun for
Hmm.
us talking
Yeah.
about the next launch. And I'll
Yep.
add to something else that you advised me to do that I thought was helpful, and it was actually a really popular episode. Was I did a podcast episode all about building
Mm.
and creating
Hmm.
Bariatric Strong and kind of the behind the scenes kind of um, you know topic, I guess you could
Yeah.
say. And that episode actually has done really well. I was
Oh,
surprised.
love
I thought
it.
people would, yeah, I thought people would be like, oh, this is just some kind of
Hmm.
promotional podcast episode. And honestly, I think folks are just interested in learning, like, why did you select these topics? What are these the topics that I'm struggling with? Are these the
Hmm.
things that, I actually feel like resonate with my journey, after bariatric surgery and wanting to gain muscle. And so and also in the podcast, I gave out, some tips as well. So it
Yeah.
wasn't just all about promoting the bariatric strong program, but that was really helpful. And I released that, I think it was about 2 weeks before my open cart day. And I think that was really helpful to
Mm.
driving more folks to the wait list and then of course to registration.
Yeah. Well, and I love that because again, it gives you, and I'm so glad it was so successful for you because that's something I've used many times, a strategy I've used many times. And I think it just, one thing I think one of the biggest things I feel like I've learned about just like sales and marketing is I feel like of the information you put out there into the world about your program, people filter that and they digest probably an eighth of that information. When
Right.
I'm having sales conversations with people and they ask me questions about DSC, and it's like, oh, but that's just on the sales page. Like there's,
Right.
that information is like right there in front of you, right? The last
Right.
questions of like, do you have this in the membership? And it's like, yeah, like we've said that many times, but it's
Right.
just such an important reminder that You have to give people information in so many different ways through multiple touch points. And I love a podcast episode because you can go deeper with it too, right? You're not just telling
Yes.
people, hey, this is what you're going to learn in this module. You can
Right.
explain it. And suddenly when you explain it, they're like, oh, this would be really helpful for me, right? So it's
Yes.
just a
Totally.
different level of selling, which is
Yes.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
I want to also add this something that I also learned from you, which was when we created that sales page, we had the price of the program,
Yeah.
and I was
Mm,
at first when we were talking about, it, I was kind of like, oh, should we put that out there, beforehand?
yeah.
And you were like, no, because then the people that have joined your wait list know what the price is, and those are
Yeah.
folks that now. They're already aware. It's not like this spectacular, open the doors and this is the price, and they're like,
Yeah.
whoa, maybe they
Yeah.
think it's okay, or maybe they're like, no, that's too much. I don't know. And so for me, that actually made me feel more good about the folks that were joining my wait list towards the end because they had seen all the information and they knew the price. And so I knew then that, those folks were more, possibly more likely to then join the program because they had the information. And now again, I did have to reiterate that. And just like you said, we had a Q&A section on there with, yes, there was an installment option, and people must have messaged me so many times on what's the price, is there installment payments,
Yeah.
little things like that. And you just have to say it,
Yeah.
many times, and that's okay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm just such a proponent of pricing transparency because I know for me as a buyer, and this is such a contentious issue in, the business world and people have such different opinions on it, but I
Yeah.
always just think about myself as a buyer. Like if a price isn't listed, I just don't end up going to the next step. Like I just
Right.
don't because I'm
Right.
like, I make assumptions, right? I'm like, oh, it's going to be wildly high or
Yes.
whatever. And I don't like that. And I
No.
love having a list of leads that truly are, ready to purchase. That just feels
Yes.
really good, right? They
It
have all the
does.
information that they need, and that just feels good, I think, as a business owner. It's
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
a different feeling, I
Yeah.
think. So let's talk about pricing and
Okay.
what you price the program at.
Sure. I priced it at $599, or they could do two monthly installment payments of $325. So it was a 6-week program, and you and I kind of went back and forth on that. And again, just someone that was new to having a group program, I was nervous. Is this too much? Is I don't know. Because again, having never run it, I didn't know if that was going to feel too high for folks. And honestly, when I looked around, because we did do kind of some market research ahead of time to see, what are other folks and programs kind of offering for this
Hmm.
duration, and that it was actually not on the higher end, as
Hmm.
compared to a lot of the programs that I see out there by registered dietitians. So I I felt comfortable with it. And honestly, I got a lot of great feedback from folks, and they were like, "No, that's a great, that's reasonable
Yeah.
for the amount of time and the amount of information and the resources and things you're providing." So it went great.
Yeah. Well, and it's just a starting point, right? To be able to continue to increase as the value of the program increases. And I think what's so important to state here for anyone listening is that this was entirely cash based. People were not like, no part of this
Yes.
was going through insurance, right? And so this is just
Yeah.
proof to people who are listening and are thinking, people don't buy dietetic services unless they can get them covered by insurance. That's actually not true. People will pay out of pocket for something that
100%.
is
My
truly meeting their needs. Yeah. Yeah.
100%. My entire business is cash pay. I don't
Yeah.
accept insurance. So my
Yes.
entire business has been based on that.
Yep.
And that's because, well, for one thing, sports nutrition is not a, reimbursable medical diagnosis. There's not a
Yeah.
CPT code for that.
And you're
So,
located in the
um,
States, just for
and
everyone
I,
who's listening.
yes,
Yeah.
and I'm in
Yeah.
the US. Yeah. So, it for me, it was a natural thing. And honestly, I just didn't want to have to take on the billing side of that.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
the program, though, and I'll just point this out in case anyone finds this interesting, the majority of my clients that did purchase the program paid in full. I
Mm.
think I only had two that did the installment payment. After so
Mm.
many questions that I received on the installment payment, I only had two people pay that way.
Yeah, that's so interesting. So
Yeah.
it's good to have as an option, but again, it's just reinforcing the
Yep.
idea that if something is delivering on somebody a desired transformation for somebody, um, they'll pay out of pocket for it. It's like
Yep.
any other service.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the launch results. So, how many people did you end up getting in the first cohort?
Yep, I had 15 people. So I had
Yeah.
15 people in the program. And, I'll be honest, again, having not known, I thought I was, and naively, let me just say, naively thought I'd get, maybe I'll get like 30. I mean, that would be great, and I remember
Yeah.
telling you that, like, I was like, I think I might get like 30 people. I mean, I have 75 people on the wait list. I mean, I should get at
Yeah.
least 30 to 40. That's not normally how that
Yeah.
works, which again had to live through. And to be honest with you, I'm actually glad I have the number that I have because going through it the first time and not really knowing how everything was going to work, I think I would have actually felt a lot more stress because I would have thought, oh gosh, I have 30 or 40 or 50 people that are seeing, an error or, if something were to
Yeah.
go wrong. And so
Mhm.
honestly, the 15 has been great this first time. To tell you the truth, it's been a perfect number for the community, and for the amount of, just the questions or the things that the traffic that's coming through is very manageable. And it's really been a good start for me.
Mm. Yeah, and I think, that piece around it's like whenever you start selling something new online, I think there's always this period of like expectation adjustment that just has to happen for every single business owner, right? Of like, and
Yes.
hey, occasionally it may happen where things just like, it blows your mind, the results blow
Yes.
your mind, but in most cases, they don't. And
No.
that's just part of realistically running an online business, right? And of course, on Instagram,
Totally.
we always see all the like, we only see the examples of the results that blow your mind, but we don't see the 99% of other cases where, the results are just aligned with what the metrics tell us they should be. And I think what was so cool about your situation, and we had talked a little bit about this, was that given that you had only started your email marketing, like, was it like 2 months before the program launched? Like, it was
Correct.
pretty, it was a pretty
Pretty
tight
new.
timeline, right? And even the
Yeah.
launch was pretty tight. We like kind of
Yes.
crunched everything into like a 2 month period. It
Yes.
wasn't a super long runway for people to really know you and kind of understand what you do and what you offer. We sort of went right into the pitch fairly
Right.
quickly,
We
right?
did.
So it was really cool to see like the results were awesome given
Yes.
that and given how small your email list was too. I think you had
Right.
when we went into the launch, your email list was like, was it like 600 people maybe?
600. Yep.
600
I think we were at
people.
600.
Yeah. 600 people. And we typically expect 1 to 4% conversion rates on offer. And we even looked at the conversion rates for the wait list, and they were quite a bit higher than industry standard. So, it was such a success, but I know it's like when we don't know those metrics and we don't know the reality of online business and how hard it actually is to get people to buy something and to sell something. Yeah, I mean, there's just an expectation adjustment that has to happen.
It absolutely, I can't reiterate that enough
Yeah.
because again, I was honestly, I remember the first few days, you're like, how are you feeling? Oh my gosh. Because I got
Yeah.
like 7 or 8 people in the first like
Yeah.
2 days. Like it was just
Yeah.
like boom, boom. And then, my cart, my open, what I don't I think it's called the open cart. I had it
Yeah.
for a week, right? So I opened it and then I closed it on that following Monday. And I was thinking I was gonna get 7 or 8 people a day.
Yeah.
And so initially, so because I had that wait list, those folks got the email first with the link. And so I did get, a good amount of folks those first 2 days. But then it was just like one person,
Hmm.
one person, one person. And I
Yeah.
remember messaging you being like, oh my gosh, is this not good? And you were
Yeah.
like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is really great. And I remember being like, I mean, I thought I was going to get like 30 or 40,
Yeah.
and and it's okay. And like I said, it's really been great. And something that we talked about kind of as we broke it down afterwards, which was, yeah, the email marketing, I really didn't have a strong strategy there. Instagram, it was really mostly about podcast episodes. So,
Hmm.
I think as I prepare for launching again in the fall, I have some better strategies to focus on this next time around,
Yeah.
to help, drive more folks in.
Yeah. Totally. I know. I think that was what was so funny during that launch week is like I'm sitting here being like, "Oh my God, this is so awesome, Kim." And you're sitting there being like, is it though? So there was just lots of back and forth conversations about
Yes.
just like, no, no, this is really great.
Yes.
This is really great. You should be super proud of yourself.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah,
And what's so
totally.
cool too is like, yeah, and now we have so much data to be able to learn from and be able to incorporate into the next round, right? Because it's like, okay, every
Right.
launch you do, then you have more opportunity to grow your email list more. And then it becomes, again, like I said, really fun because suddenly when we know, okay, these were my conversion rates for the first round. Well, then if I get X number of people, new people on my email list, well, then again, we can start to predict your launch numbers, which becomes so much more fun. And then you can start to put things
Right.
like, Facebook ads and stuff behind this offer, knowing that you will probably get this sort of ROI from it. It just
Right.
becomes fun, It becomes fun. We can start
Yeah.
playing with the metrics a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I think I am going to try ads this time around as something that
Yeah.
you and I'll chat about as we get ready for the next one. But because I'm why not try it?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
again, I think because of the podcast, I do have a large I think I'm almost up to 75,000 downloads of all these episodes. I have 76 or 77
Yeah.
episodes already. But point is, people, folks know what I do, and I think though with the more targeted strategies that we're going to do, which is going to be trying to drive more folks to the email list through my freebie and promoting that more. I had never even promoted that hardly prior to that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
so folks literally would just come to my website organically and sign up for the newsletter that I wasn't even doing, which is
Yeah.
embarrassing to say, but I'm going to be honest about it. I really wasn't utilizing the email list until about a month or two before I launched. So I'm really excited this time to see how that drives more
Hmm.
folks.
Yeah. And that's so common, by the way. People like I would say vast majority of dietitians that are listening to this would say the same thing where they started an email list and so they have all these people. They have these people kind of passively joining it and then they're like,
Yes,
"Yeah, I've never done anything with it." Like I've had that conversation so many times, so it's very
totally.
normal. Doesn't mean you can't reactivate it though, right? Like it's always
Right.
you can reactivate it for sure.
Totally.
So what do you feel like tell me a little bit more about the future plans for the program?
Yeah. So I'm going to run it again in October, and I have this community that I've been building. I mean, my ultimate goal would be hopefully eventually roll it into like a membership where
Hmm.
I then just keep folks in as maybe an annual cost, where I'm providing. They'll obviously have access to those modules and the resources, and then my goal would be to do whether it's monthly Q&As or I don't know the frequency yet, obviously that's something I have to hash out, but that's eventually where I would like to go. And also I'm going to be launching in 2026 a bariatric endurance program, so that way I have folks, because I do have clients that are more focused on muscle gaining, and I have folks that are training for different endurance events, and the nutrition
Hmm.
does have some variation there in terms of what you're going to recommend. So I am going to build that out also, hopefully coming through this fall, and then have that to be available in the spring. And so then what I would like to do is maybe alternate my launches and do one bariatric strong and then one bariatric endurance. And
Hmm.
then, like I said, eventually potentially rolling these folks into a membership type of platform.
Hmm. Yeah. And just to speak to why we didn't do that originally, to start with a membership, we talked about how, and this is just a lesson for anybody who's listening that's thinking about this, is that really, if your program is bringing people through a very specific transformation and there is a start and there is an end to that transformation, kind of everyone is going through the steps, one piece at a time, it makes more sense as like a cohort-based group program or online course, right? Because a membership is more so we're coming in and we have access to all of this material that we can kind of just use whenever we need it, but it's not necessarily so programmed, right? There's not necessarily a start and finish. If there was, then people would just leave the program once that finish was done, right? They would leave the membership.
Correct.
So it just makes more sense as a group program right now, but there's a lot of ways that it can be then turned into a membership. So
Yeah.
that'll be fun to kind of strategize and talk about that when the time comes for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'll just say this lastly, which is, my biggest fear in terms of the membership is just the producing resources and handouts. And
Yeah.
again, that's not my strong suit. So that's
Yeah.
always been something that I felt like, oh gosh, I'm going to have to really gear up.
Hmm.
But I think there's other things that have value. Like when I already have a lot of these lessons recorded and created already for the resources. And then, a lot of folks come and they want to talk to you. As a
Mm-hmm.
dietitian, they want to ask you questions. And so there's a lot of value to that in building that
Mm-hmm.
community aspect. So I don't know exactly how it'll look eventually if we'll combine the programs together. I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
I'm excited to try it out and see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And if you were to look back on your business journey so far, oh, and I just want to say too, you've gotten rid of one-on-one now. No more one-on-one, correct? It's just group
Yes,
program now
I
moving forward.
yes. So
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Right. As of right now, I have put a hold on my one-on-ones just because, and I still have clients that I'm
Yeah.
working with, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
completing with their programs. But yeah, moving forward, I think I'm just going to focus on the group program
Mm-hmm.
as I move forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you look back on your business journey, what have been some of the biggest lessons that you've learned?
Use your strong suit, like use
Mm,
your personal skills. Okay. I like the podcast was really the best thing that I ever did because it allowed me to talk at length on topics and folks could get to know me. So then that drove folks in to want to work with me one on one. And then obviously in promoting new programs, it's a wonderful thing to have, but using your strengths. I'm not great at Instagram reels, right? And so it's just not something that I want to go and create a video every day. It's just not something that I'm with. And so again, the podcast was something where I could use something that I already made in having it part of your marketing or have it so that you're getting in front of folks' faces every day on Instagram. So that's been really great for me in utilizing something that has multiple strategies, multiple
hmm
uses. And then I would just say something that you always don't know until you try. And before you kind of, I was very much a person that's analysis paralysis, and I just wouldn't do it. And instead, it was like, look, it's not going to be perfect. You just have to try it, and that's okay. And folks aren't going to be like, this is terrible if one thing goes wrong. They
hmm
still know that you're putting out a product that you're doing your best with. And honestly, I would not have learned all of these things in my business is not now growing in the direction that I really want it to, which I'm excited about. It's going in that direction because I tried something new. And I really had put it off for at least a year before I
hmm
finally was like, Krista, we have to do this. I have to do this. And so it
Yeah.
was scary, but you just don't know what you don't know until you try
Yeah.
it. So
hmm
I would say those things are probably the biggest lessons I've learned.
That's awesome. I love that. Such good anecdotes of wisdom for dietitians who are listening, who are feeling afraid of just getting started and it not being perfect and have sat on that program idea for such a long time, right? Yeah,
Yes.
it's always going to
Yes.
feel scary, but you should do it
Yes.
anyways.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also reach out for help. Like if you
Yeah.
don't know how to do something, or
Yep.
as you always say, if it's not in your zone of,
Yeah.
expertise, let someone help you.
Yeah.
I could
Totally.
never have done this without your
Yeah.
help and without the help of my virtual assistant. Like there's no
Yeah.
way. I just couldn't have done it. I
hmm
didn't know how to do half of the things that you've helped me with. And so
Yeah.
that's really been valuable for me and honestly worth the investment because I
hmm
invested into my business by bringing on help. That
Yeah.
helped me to get to where I want to be and then
Yeah.
grow from there.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Where can the audience find out more about you?
Sure. Well, you can go to my website, which is activebariatricnutrition.com. You can follow me on my social media pages. I'm on Instagram, Active Bariatric. I'm on Facebook and TikTok. And of course, I have my podcast, which is the Active Bariatric Nutrition Podcast. And I used to do them every single week. But again, in learning in my business, I realized that wasn't something I could sustain. So now I do pretty much 2 episodes a month. And that's been really, something that I can sustain and I enjoy. So you can follow me there twice a month. I have those episodes drop. So check it
Awesome. And
out.
we have a lot of dietitians in our community who are in bariatrics, whether that
Oh,
be
great.
they work in community or outpatient or inpatient or whatever. So for those dietitians listening that you end up getting patients who are interested in the active side of their lives, such a great resource. The podcast is such a good resource to direct people to. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thanks, Kim. It was so good to talk to
Thanks.
you.
I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.